The song "I'll Be Home for Christmas" was released during the height of World War II. And for many soldiers trudging on through war, it was a song of hope and longing. An ache to, even if only in their dreams, they might be home for Christmas. On June 6th, on a tiny stretch of beach, 50 miles long in the north of France, 1945, a force of almost 160,000 soldiers crossed the English Channel in an effort to push back the Nazi occupying force in France. Now, many scholars disagree as to whether the Normandy invasion was in fact the turning point of the Western Front. But in the popular imagination, the creation of that beachhead was the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. Now, a beachhead is important because it establishes a landing point for reinforcements, supplies, and in World War II it held symbolic meaning because really up until that point it seemed like the Axis powers were winning. They had pushed the Allies across the sea, and Europe really seemed almost utterly lost. This is the same kind of world that Jesus enters, except this war is not between countries or armies, but between the Yahweh God and the forces of a lost and broken world, and a snake. It's a cosmic war, a war that began a long time ago in a garden, and with an ominous promise from God, when God declares that I will put enmity between the snake and the woman, and between their offspring and hers. This person will crush the head of the snake, and the snake will strike his heel. Now, we know that the crushing and striking would come ultimately through the cross of Jesus. But this week we aren't looking at the fall of the Reichstag or the surrender of the Nazi forces. We are on a beach in northern France. Our beachhead at Christmas is not established with tanks and rifles, offshore bombardments, or paratroopers. The foothold God brings on Christmas is a tiny baby, God himself in human skin. God comes from across the shore, not on troop transports or airplanes. God instead removes his crown, the crown of heaven, and becomes a human. This head of the snake was not crushed at this point in the story, but the tide of the war is turning. Now, you may never have thought of it this way, but Christmas, the joyous birthday celebration with presents and trees and singing, is a story of war. As the prophet Isaiah said, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Of those living in a land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For those in occupied France, the sight of Allied troops brought hope. How much more so, the sight of God in our midst. Now, this year might seem like a war story to many of us, holed up in our houses, separated from loved ones, living under fear. But do not lose hope. A great light has come. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas. Jesus is proof. It will not just be a dream. Merry Christmas.